Story time. Hey everybody, I'm SB Pearce and I'm a horror novelist and poet, but I also love to do live storytelling. So if those things are your jam, follow along. I wanted to tell you the story about what just recently happened. So yesterday was our son's birthday and we took him out to dinner to celebrate. And we had the server take some pictures and I posted those pictures on my private page and just said, our son is 6 years old. Where does the time go? Well, later on that night, I was sitting out on the back deck in the dark and I'm scrolling through all the happy birthday wishes from all of our friends and family. And there's one person who I didn't know, someone from my husband's friends list, who commented, time flies. You and Chuck are finally learning this. And my heart just dropped. I was like, oh my God, how does she know Chuck? How does she know Chuck? Fucking Chuck. Let me tell you about Chuck. So when our son was about 3 or 4 years old, he developed an imaginary friend. And in the beginning, it was all fine. Lots of little ones, especially when they're only children, they have imaginary friends. My older sister had them. They were country music singers that lived in a tree outside of our house, So, it was just somebody for him to talk to and play with when, he was playing by himself in his room. And we would hear their little conversations. And it's just like listening to, him talk to a friend while they're playing. But over time, things started to shift and change. Eventually, our son started complaining about how mean Chuck was and how Chuck said this and Chuck said that. And he would get visibly upset and he was very angry or very sad. It was very negative. And we were like, this is kind of weird. What's he kind of working through? Is he maybe working through some emotions, big emotions, little person kind of thing? And then it progressed to him having verbal arguments at the dinner table with fucking Chuck. Yeah, they would argue while we were eating dinner. I could never hear the other side, of course, nor could my husband. And then it just progressed even more so. The daycare called us one day and they were like, your son got into a physical altercation with his friend Chuck. So yeah, then it progressed to them fist fighting and rolling around the floor, fighting each other. That's how big his imagination was. At least we think it was his imagination. I'm not sure. And it became very frightening, very disconcerting. And we were like, oh shit, what do we do about this fucking Chuck situation? Well, the opportunity came up and we ended up moving to Pennsylvania. And I told our son, I was like, sorry, Chuck can't go. We don't have room in the moving van. And we get to Pennsylvania and damn it, fucking Chuck somehow fit into the moving van, right? So we had to deal with this also while we were in Pennsylvania. We only stayed there a little over a year and we ended up moving back to Louisiana. And I told my son, I was like, absolutely not. Chuck is mean. We don't like him. He cannot come back to Louisiana with us. He has to stay here. He can be whoever lives in this house next. He can be their problem. Because I wasn't so sure that Chuck was imaginary anymore. I was kind of thinking maybe that something from the other side was, kind of dealing with my son there. And for years, my son swore up and down that this was an imaginary friend or whatever. And he still sort of kind of remembers this person. But I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure that Chuck was completely imaginary because around the time that Chuck came into being was also around the same time that my son was complaining about the man in his closet when he was 3 or 4. Fuck Chuck. Turns out that it wasn't like that Chuck. It was a different Chuck. It was somebody that my son or my husband knew years and years ago, and it was that person's mother who commented that. And I was like, phew. But fuck Chuck. Fuck that kid. I couldn't even avoid play dates with that motherfucker. Ooh.